Hello. Oh, geez. Sorry if that was, like, super loud. But here we go. Hi. Welcome back. I am finally back to, we're finally back to Doki Doki Literature Club. Hang on, I actually just remembered I'm gonna put on my nice pop filter, since we're not cameraing this game, unless, you know, we need to do it for a moment. But okay. Okay. There we go. Pop filter applied. Now, before we start, I have such sights to show you. Here we go. So, here's game. However, let's think back to the last time that we played this game, right? The last time we played this game was weeks ago. And I am about to show you why. So, here we go. Last time we played the game, what happened, alright, so catch-up time. What happened was, Yuri died, and after Yuri died, Monika deleted both Yuri and Natsuki after having already deleted Sayori earlier in the game, right? So it was just Monika. Just Monika. And at that point, all the game was, if you booted it up, you didn't even get this screen anymore. It just booted straight to Monika in the room with her as she spoke to you, and she gave you little tidbits of wisdom. And I really, really liked that. It's one of those things where, like, if that were the ending, I would have been happy, because it was pretty cool. Albeit a little bit predictable, you know? Like, I was on to Monika for a long time. Now, here's the thing, though. While she was giving us tidbits of wisdom, she only said something every 30 seconds. So I had a lot of time to start digging around in the game files, because we had already found out the thing about, like, the character files going missing and that kind of stuff. There was, like, that picture called Happy Thoughts that showed up in the game's files and stuff. There were reasons to be digging through the game files. And when I went into the character file, when I went into the character folders and went into Monika's file, since she was the only one left, we found something. Let's go back to that for a moment. Let's replay that moment for a bit. So, here's the spreadsheet of my archives that you can find linked below the Twitch stream. An archive of all of the streams I've done since I started archiving. We've got Doki Doki right here. Gives us a YouTube playlist. Let's replay that moment here, shall we? This is kind of why is this 480p? Please stay at 720. All right. Let's replay that moment. Damn it, YouTube. Don't worry, don't mind me, Monika. I'm just digging around in your brain. Okay, this is what. Okay, hang on. The game is still playing. We're gonna quit this. Okay. All right, replay. Don't mind me, Monika. I'm just digging around in your brain. Okay, this is what the characters look like. So here's Monika's character file. Wait, it's a PNG? Huh? What the fuck? And thus, the adventure began. So at that point, you know, then I continued for the rest of the stream, I continued reading her bits of wisdom, looking at her Twitter account that she talked about, digging through other game files. But really, what I was thinking about was this PNG image. And that was going to be the next thing. So, done with that now. What's up, Futaba? So let's go into... let's just go to details on this. Let's go into all the things that we found, alright? So here's Monica. This is the image, right? Now, here was my thought process here. Black and white, huh? And, we got black and white. Okay, my very first thought is, oh, binary. But, like, you know, who knows? You know, one of the things that a lot of people, I'm sure, think is QR code. But QR codes have, like, a thing over here, a thing over here, a thing over here, and a thing over here. Oh, Celebrity Martyr, I am explaining the ride I've already been on right now, alright? I've already streamed this game for 4 days. It was just a little while ago. And now I am explaining the ride that I was on while I took a hiatus from streaming the game because I had to figure this shit out. And now we're back. So, here's the thing about this image. First of all, this ring thing, this is just artistic. What we want is right here. So, I broke it down. I broke it down to just Monica. And when you look at it this way, you realize that it's not actually a square. It's not actually a perfect square. It's 140 by 140. However, right here, it ends, and there's just black at the end. So that is exactly what I needed to start investigating, because that means that this is left to right, top to bottom data that ends at a certain point, right? So, I opened up Notepad and wrote out every one of these pixels into a 0 and a 1. Opening this up in Paint so I could kind of move the lines around and look one at a time. And we looked at every one of these pixels. All, how many is it? 19,520 pixels. And wrote them out into zeros and ones. Then, I started looking at it as, you know, what the first thing that you would think is it's probably bytes, right? Because there were a couple things that led me to that, which one of them is that there were never more than 4 of a single character in a row. The most, oh wait, there's 5 zeros right here. Oh, that's interesting. Well, oh no, it was 5. There was never more than 5 in a row, which makes sense because 0, what is it, like 011, 1000 or what, I don't know. One of the it's interesting, right? That makes it really seem like it's not random. So if you start breaking it down into 8-bit bytes here, you start noticing, oh, they all start in either 010 or 011 or 001. This right here is Unicode. This is text, right? So, easy enough, you know, I just took all these zeros and ones, jammed them into a binary to text converter, and we got this. Now, this text right here drove me insane for days and days. I slaved over this block of text. What could it mean? It looks like a cipher, but like one that I've never seen before, where it's got lowercase and uppercase and numbers. There aren't spaces in it. So I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be like translating the language in Fez, or this is going to be like translating the note in Stardew Valley, or this is going to be like translating the language in Axiom Verge, and all those kinds of things. I got really excited. However, there's no spaces, so it made it insanely difficult to get a grasp on what I could be looking at here. One thing that popped out to me right away is that IHLVD pops up several times in here. IHLVD, matching case. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 of them. 7 times is a lot. However, they're all in the first half, which is kind of interesting. I didn't really notice that part before. Anyway, so I started thinking, like, okay, like, if it's a substitution cipher, you know, what are the letters? And I started taking a bunch of notes, like, do capitals versus lowercase matter, or is it just to make it look crazy? NL appears 10 times. 2FU is 4 times. Every letter and number is used except 6 and 7. There's not a single 6 or 7 in here. However, if you count capitals and lowercases, there's also no capital O's, lowercase f's, or I think there's one other. Capital A's, that's it. So I counted how many capitals versus lowercase letters, all of the different numbers. I counted out how many there were to try to like see what are the likely letters, you know, and then IHLVD popped out, so I counted those. And I was thinking that this was the word there, because, and dash, that has 2 E's in it. Well, there's also something called a homophonic cipher or substitution, which is where you, yes, Glaz. So that's where you actually use multiple different ciphered letters for one letter, because the letter E appears a lot. It might be both capital L and capital D, right? So this wasn't really going anywhere, though. It was way too hard to get a grip on this. So I started looking up different types of ciphers that there were, not just substitution, but what are different ciphers. And one that I found really early on is called auto key, which is where you use a key and then the rest of your text is ciphered based off that. Let me find the website I was using. I think it was this one. Nope. It was the next one. No? What? Oh my gosh. One of these is like really nice to use. This is the one. Okay. So I started like examining this. Like, okay, let's take this here and put it in here, and we're gonna start like putting in random keys that I think that it might be, and we'll see what it is. But I didn't get anywhere. I also started trying to crack it at one point. If you look up the Wikipedia article on auto key, on an auto key cipher, it describes how you attack one of these and how you figure it out. Like, the word the is likely to appear, right? So you put the at every possible spot and decode it, because the decoding is using a simple table that's used everywhere, and you start trying to find it. And I did this for a while. Again, I didn't get anywhere. And what kept bothering me is the fact that I'm looking up how to attack these. I'm looking up Vigenaire ciphers, which are the same thing, except they do a certain thing that AutoKey. They don't do a certain thing that AutoKey does. By the way, let me refresh myself on how to actually pronounce this, so I quit saying it. Oh shit. Okay, well, I don't know. Okay, anyway, so I didn't really get anywhere with that. At some point, though, for some reason, this was all Monica. Monica was the only character I had looked at so far. But at one point, I thought, maybe there's something in one of the other character files, and for some reason, I just didn't think of it until then, because Monica was the only suspicious one. But I had a backed up, I had a backed up save file, or a base install copy of the game, because I wanted to mess with stuff, and yeah, Marstead, thank you so much for that hefty host. Okay, so I started looking at the other characters, because that's a big host. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the host. this is a blind playthrough. I am currently explaining a bunch of puzzle stuff that I just did, and if anybody ruins it for me, I will be very grumpy. So, thank you so much for the host. This is a blind playthrough. Alright, so I decided, why don't I look at the other characters? Let's open up Natsuki. So, just like Monica, when you looked at Monica, the thing that originally I noticed was that it says PNG at the top. Now, Natsuki says JFIF. Now, I've never heard of a JFIF, but I was like, okay, you know, whatever. So let's go JFIF, and what do you know? It's also a picture. Holy shit, the other characters are pictures as well. Now, what's creepy about this one is that if you flip it around, it's got a face on the sides. And so I took that character, so I flipped it around. I also put the face together and inverted the colors. And we get to something like this. Okay. That's pretty interesting. That looks like a texture, right? That's why it's all ugly. So let's open Unity. Alright. So here's Unity. Let's just, I'm very not good at Unity, but, because I've, like, barely used it, but, you know, I can do basic stuff, like this. Let's make a sphere. Let's put Natsuki on it. And what we get is this. So this certainly, let's kind of orient it properly here. There we go. So yeah, like, it's a face. What's kind of weird about the face is that you can keep looking down to the back of the sphere and you get, like, the whole bust, you know? So that's kind of weird because it's on the back of her head. But yeah, so I don't know if there's a different shape I'm supposed to put this on to make it make more sense, but either way, okay, so it's a face that goes on a sphere. However, I don't know what to do with this information, you know? Like, okay, this is weird, but it doesn't really tell me anything. But that means that there's got to be more to the other characters. So, so the next one is Sayori. Sayori, oh my god, OGG. Well, I've done enough stuff to know what an OGG file is. It also says Vorbis right here, which is a type of OGG. I didn't even notice that at first. So, OGG, okay. So, we take her file, turn it into an OGG. Now, this is going to sound a little bit unpleasant, so warning to headphone users. So that's Sayori. Alright, so I tried slowing it down. I tried, you know, just reducing the pitch of it. I tried all kinds of stuff there. But, however, oh, that's good, Diatsu. It's just a squealing, awful sound that doesn't have anything in it. However, yeah, the point is that you didn't miss anything. However, do you guys remember the 9 Inch Nails album, Year Zero? Many, many years ago, this super stuck with me. Many, many years ago, there was an album by 9 Inch Nails called Year Zero. Let me show it to you. 9 Inch Nails, Year Zero. The cover of this album was this. It's like a hand coming down on the windshield of a car, right? Now, there was one song on the album called My Violent Heart that had a weird bit of static at the end of it that sounded kind of weird, and it was like, that's weird, why is that on the album? However, if you opened it up in a spectrogram, it looked like this. And as a kid, I thought that that was the coolest fucking thing I had ever seen in my life. The fact that this image, which is on the cover, was hidden in one of the songs. So it really stuck with me. This idea of spectrogram, you know? That's awesome. So, one of the things I thought of pretty quickly for Sayori, you know, having that experience, was let's look at her in Reaper. So this is Reaper. It's an audio program, audio engineering program. Let's take Sayori and toss her in. Make it nice and big. Boom. So that is what the spectrogram looks like. How long am I rambling about? I don't know. There's a little bit more to it. So this is obviously a QR code, and you can tell because of this and this and this. You know, it's got the markings, right? That all QR codes have. However, it's not scannable to a phone. So I had to clean it up a little bit, right? So in this program, if you get an edit going on, you can kind of raise the floor on it. And so that kind of sharpens it up a little bit. However, it's still like, it kind of gets crushed down here is the problem. So I had to like really turn it down or something like this, right? And get it real small. And then, because this isn't something that you can scan, I opened up Paint. Actually, okay, so something funny about Reaper is if you're not selected on it, it doesn't show it. So I had to take it like this and print screen, open up Paint, paste it in there, and that way I could actually have the image open. While then I took Paint, and where is it? Where did I save it? Here it is. I took Paint and just drew it, you know? Took my pen tool and just looked over here, looked back and forth, and drew it. I didn't get it right away, you know? There were a couple pixels, especially like in here. There were a few pixels that I got wrong that I had to kind of go back and figure out back and forth. But once I got it to this point, it scanned. So this scans, and what it translates to is some text. The text it translates to is http://projectlibitina.com. Now, so what you get? That's why I didn't stream any of this, Apfelstrudel. I did not stream the drawing it on Paint. I especially did not stream the looking at the 19,000 black and white pixels and typing them out into binary. Yeah. So this is some kind of examination report of a 3-year-old girl who has a third eye. They do some testing of her, you know, like emotional and physical response. Something about like a life threat response test, like some really weird shit here. They also talk about the termination of XXXXXX, which is, you know, presumably redacted. However, that's also what her last name is, so we can assume that that she was a family member. And yeah, again though, okay. So here we are at the end of the puzzle of Sayori, and I don't know what information to actually get out of this. However, I thought there's got to be something. Then this threw me back into the auto key thing, like, oh, Libitina, the name, you know? Nothing else in here is really particularly, like, standoutish. I mean, it's interesting. This is not where I expected this game to go, talking about lab tests on a girl named Libitina who I've never heard of, who has a third eye. Like, what the fuck is this even talking about? How is this the same video game, right? It's interesting, don't get me wrong, but the only thing that I could glean out of this as far as, like, solving the puzzle of the other characters, because remember, we still don't know what the deal with this Monica text is, I thought, oh, Libitina. That's got to be what I'm supposed to pull out. So I went back to here to the text, and hang on, I actually have to open this in a different Microsoft Notepad line breaks it, so we got to go Notepad++. Okay, so I thought, Libitina, that's got to be it. Let's paste this in. This has to work. Boom! No. Still doesn't work. And at this point, well, I still have one more character to look at, right? I've got Yuri to look at. Yuri to look at. Yuri looks very, very similar. I'll just open her in Notepad regular. Where's open with? Yeah, whatever. We'll just turn word wrap on. Yuri looks very, very similar to Monica, except that instead of the text being 2,000 characters long, it's 30,000 characters long. And it also has 2 equal signs at the end, which is interesting because Monica had 1 equal sign at the end. And I was wondering if, like, maybe that even means, like, layers of encryption or something. I don't know. And so I thought, okay, remember IHLVD and how that popped up 7 times? In this, it pops up 9 times, which is very few. Like, you might think that that's a lot. However, remember, it popped up 7 times in Monica's, which was only 2,000 characters long, in, 6 times as much text, you would expect it to pop up more than just 2 more times. So that was kind of weird. And I started using, like, there's a website that analyzes text like this and figures out, like, what letters, what sequences of letters are found often and stuff. Like GDG is in here a bunch and that kind of stuff, but I just wasn't getting anywhere. So this is where I was for a while. I had the website and I had the face, but I didn't know what to do with this text. So at some point, I just Googled uppercase, lowercase, numbers, cipher, And I found, oh, is there a cipher with mixed case letters as well as numbers? And this person said, here's a thing. And then also there's base 64, where a binary code is chunked into 6-bit segments. And those can be interpreted as ASCII codes. 26 uppercase, 26 lowercase, 10 digits. And then these 2, which is a little weird. So, oh, base 64. Okay. Let's go to Wikipedia, and I was like, let's look into this a little bit more. Base 64, what's this? Oh my god, what does this look like to you? This looks exactly like Monica, right? It even has a freaking equal sign at the end. Turns out, none of this keyword shit was necessary. None of this, like, complex substitution or anything. It was just a type of encoding that I've never heard of, and all I had to do was just describe what the ciphertext looked like, in order to find it. So, how this works is it takes the 8-bit code, that we found, and it reads it in bits of 6 bits at a time. And every 6 bits, it translates to a number, which can be from 0 to 63. And then you get, you translate that number to just going down the alphabet, capital, then going down the alphabet, lowercase, then going down the numbers. It's very interesting that there are no pluses or slashes in Monica or Yuri, but I guess that's a coincidence. And then the reason that there's an equal sign at the end is because it's reading chunks of 8 bits in 6. That's not always going to line up all the way, right? So sometimes it just has to pad out the end with zeros, and if you end up with a 0, that's just an equal sign. Because up here they started at, wait, I don't know how, never mind, I'm not sure. Wait, I don't know why that, oh, A was never used? Okay, I guess they just padded out with zeros and then they put equal signs at the ends. I'm not sure exactly why. However, the fact that it would never really be 0 on its own actually explains, now that I'm looking at this, that explains why there were no capital A's found in the count. Anyway, that means it's time to see what this text actually is. So, where is it now? Now I gotta find it. Let's go, here's this. Monica, Notepad++. No, that's the one where it's broken up. Deciphering, Notepad++. What? This one's also broken up? Oh no, I turned word wrap on because I'm dumb. Okay, here we go. So copy this, and let's just, we look up a base 64 decoder. And here we go. Put in your encoded base 64, put it in, and boom, we have text. Let's read it. Can you hear me? Who are you? I can't see you, but I know you're there. Yeah, you can definitely hear me. You've been watching for a while now, right? I guess I should introduce myself or something. My name is... Actually, that's stupid. You obviously already know my name. Sorry. Anyway, I'm guessing if you were able to put a stop to this, you would have done it by now. I mean, you're not, like, evil or anything, because you've already helped me so much. I should really thank you for that, for everything you've done. You're really like a friend to me, so thank you so much. I think, more than anything else, I really don't want it all to be for nothing. Everyone else is dead. Maybe you already know that. I'm sure you do, actually. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? Well, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand. I don't know if it's even possible for me to understand it. But I know that this isn't my only story. I can see that now, really clearly. And I think everyone else has had the same kind of experience. Some kind of deja vu. It's the third eye, right? Anyway, I could be totally wrong about this. But I really think you might be able to do something. I think you might be able to go back, or however you want to put it. To go back and tell them what's going to happen. If they know ahead of time, then they should be able to avoid it. They should. If they remember their time with me in other worlds, they should remember what I tell them. Yeah. I think this might be possible, but it's up to you. I'm sorry for always being, Never mind, I know that's wrong. This is my story. It's time to be a fucking hero. Both of us. 2018. So that is Monica. Now, what about Yuri? Remember, Yuri was the same type of encoding, it looked like. Where is she now? Yeah, here she is. Yuri was the same type of encoding. And this one is long. Do you guys want me to read this to you? Because it's long. But it's also interesting. Okay, let me turn word wrap back on. Alright, here we go. If you found this note in a small wooden box with a heart on it, then congratulations. You're probably the first to read this. I didn't really plan on sharing this with anybody, but for some reason, I think it's exciting that somebody out there, a complete stranger, will come across this note and read my story. I feel like if I'm going to paraphrase it, I should paraphrase it later, because otherwise it'll just spoil it. I can paraphrase it, but never mind. I'm just going to read it. I think it's exciting that somebody out there, a complete stranger, will come across this note and read my story. Someone I will never meet, sharing such a personal bond with me. I'm fascinated that either one of us could die, even as soon as tomorrow, with the other being completely clueless to the fact. To you, my entire life is within this note, and so I will live for as long as your memory can carry me. Writing this, I'm wondering if that makes you feel fascinated or violated. It's so exciting. I'm sorry if my story is a bit disorganized, but I'd like to get it down while it's still fresh in my mind. First, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a first-year college girl and have led, by most standards, a pretty unspectacular life up to this point. I grew up in an upper-middle-class school district with decent teachers. I did track in middle school and some of high school, and I've had 2 boyfriends. Now I'm studying for a career in occupational therapy because I feel the field is undervalued and provides some tremendous help to people. I'm giving you this background because there's this strange misconception that if you want to kill someone, that you're either sick in the head or that you have anger management issues. But it's very apparent that I don't fall into either of those categories. It's true that most murder cases are in a domestic setting where somebody loses control of their anger or something. But the thing is that those people kill under provocation, whether by a singular outburst or by a slow-burning series of misfortunes. Those people kill because in that brief moment, they want a specific someone for a specific reason to be hurt or killed. What I'm talking about is wanting to kill someone for no specific reason. Maybe just to see what it's like. Do you ever get that? I wouldn't know how others feel because it's not something I ever talked about, but I've been curious about what it's like to kill someone ever since I was a child. Not killing anyone in particular, just a random person. It's always fascinated me that if I put my mind to it, I can approach anyone, and in 5 minutes, they would be completely gone from this earth. But I've never done so for a couple of reasons. First of all, for most of my life, it was logistically impossible for me to do it without getting caught. I only got my driver's license a couple years ago, and even then the preparations would take too much time, definitely stirring suspicion. It was only once I started college that I realized this was no longer an obstacle. Another reason is that I was afraid of causing harm to too many people. You might laugh reading that at how hypocritical it sounds, but let me explain. Why should I feel bad about killing someone if they're too dead to care? Who would I be feeling bad for? Contrarily, it's the grief of the living that I'd rather not be responsible for. Because of this, I knew it would take a good deal of research before finding a suitable person to kill, and I've never had the means to do so. Again. Until I started college. And now, having just experienced it, I'd say it was pretty satisfying in the end. Something I would try again? Probably not, since my curiosity has already been satisfied. It really wouldn't be the same a second time. But anyway, if by chance you're also curious to kill someone, then you're welcome to take notes. I started a hobby of people watching soon after I entered college. People watching is interesting to me because it's taking one of the infinite extras in your life and turning them into a main character, without them knowing, of course. It's so easy to forget that every single one of the hundreds of strangers you pass every day has a life story as deep and complex as your own. One thing I noticed about people watching and wanting to kill someone is that you're in more constant awareness of this. When I find a person to observe, their story slowly becomes more clear to me over time, gaps being filled. It really is amazing. I usually went to grocery stores on weekends and looked around in people's shopping carts. If I saw something that interested me, I decided to observe a person for a little bit. Of course, since my goal was to find someone to kill, I ruled out anyone who had children, or a partner with them. Wedding rings were another telltale sign. So, maybe once a weekend I would find someone who fit my criteria, at which point I would follow them home and note their address. From there, it became incredibly easy to investigate a little bit more. Most people have normal work hours, meaning I could spend afternoons going through their mail or looking around in their house. I repeated this with several people, had one close call, but for varying reasons, I didn't really feel satisfied enough with them to kill any of them. I started getting a bit impatient and thought that I might just settle for killing the man named Devin, even though I didn't really want to kill someone wealthy. But then, I came across someone new. Someone who just felt perfect. The feeling only strengthened as I investigated her further, and I knew that she would be the one for me to kill. A young-looking woman I met at the grocery store as per usual. She was doing some light shopping with a basket. Her hair was wavy and dark brown, sitting inelegantly on her slumped shoulders and surrounding her tired-looking face. Her bare fingers told me she might be single, but beyond that, my gut was almost certain of it. This woman just seemed so plain. Really. I guess I felt a greater acuity for the personal lives of strangers ever since I started my people watching. But by the way she carried herself, I just got the feeling that if she suddenly died, nobody would be around to miss her. Of course, I still wanted to investigate her a little bit. I followed my usual routine of checking her place during her work hours. I learned immediately from her mail that her name is Linda Watson. Linda lived in a quiet apartment complex, her mailbox easily accessible right outside her door. Instead of quickly shuffling through it, I decided I could take her mail back to my dorm and return it before she was finished with work. She only lived about 15 minutes from me. I did some research and learned how to open and reseal the envelopes without damaging them, which took some technique along with a hairdryer, rubbing alcohol, and Q-tips. This made it easy for me to learn a little bit more about her. Linda was a 33-year-old woman who worked for a small accounting firm. I'd rather not name the place outright. Her birthday was December 11th, which coincidentally was approaching in a couple weeks. I also managed to find a bank statement that gave me a nice look into how she's been spending her past month. It was at this point that I realized my assessment of Linda Watson as an extremely plain woman was pretty spot on, because there was absolutely nothing interesting on the list. A trip to Old Navy, a bunch of Starbucks, something about $40 from Amazon, no restaurants, no movies, nothing that would really imply she was spending any time socializing. That aside, I also found a cooking magazine, so I guess she was into cooking. Apartments are harder to break into than suburban homes because there's fewer doors and windows. Every time I got Linda's mail, I would check the front door and the windows in the back, but they were always locked. This was a bit frustrating because I was really interested in getting into her house. So I came up with a sort of plan that I thought would be fun, even if it didn't work. Last Saturday, I visited Linda Watson's apartment complex as I would on weekdays. The difference is that this time I wanted her to be home. I thought it would be interesting to have a conversation with her. If I got lucky, I could take advantage of the situation to discreetly unlock a window from the inside. So I walked up to her door wearing nothing warmer than a light sweatshirt and knocked. The adrenaline rush was crazy. I was afraid I might screw something up. The door opened, and in front of me stood Linda Watson, exactly as I remembered her from the grocery store. It was at that moment, making eye contact for the first time, that I realized I was running the risk of beginning to care about this person. As selfish as it is, I couldn't kill a person I cared about, even if it's a 33-year-old woman standing in a doorway with a slightly perplexed look on her face, giving me a reserved hello. Arms crossed from the cold, I shyly returned Linda's greeting. I explained that I was walking my dog near the woodsy area behind the back of her apartment, and that he had gotten away. I had been looking for my dog for about an hour, and was wondering if Linda may have seen him roaming about. Of course, Linda sympathetically apologized for the situation and that she couldn't be of use to me, but that she would keep an eye out. I wore a defeated expression in response, apologizing in return for troubling her. It somehow went exactly as I had hoped. Linda invited me inside to warm up a bit with some coffee. I outwardly hesitated before accepting her offer, although on the inside I wanted to jump through the door and hug her for cooperating so well. And that's how Linda Watson ended up with a 19-year-old girl next to her on the couch. Who knows if it was just a nice gesture or if she really has no better way to spend her Saturdays than talking to some kid she just met, who happens to be interested in killing her. Linda soon learned that my name is Maria. It's not. And that I attend a nearby community college. I don't. I was a little bit nervous that she would ask me too many questions because I didn't have many answers prepared. I was able to steer the conversation toward her, and she was pretty happy to talk. I asked what she does. She told me that she works for an accounting firm I already knew about, communicating with the outside clients and keeping records. I told her I was pretty nervous about growing up. She told me to enjoy college and make lots of friends because there's less opportunity once you start working. When I asked if she was married or anything, she laughed. Of course I knew she wasn't married, but I wanted her to hear more about her love life. She said she doesn't currently have a boyfriend. I guess she's at least had boyfriends, but who knows how long ago. When I asked her about kids, she said she doesn't want them until she gets a better job. On top of that, she told me her family has a history of some genetic diseases such as arthritis and depression, which she is afraid to give to her kids. Hey, Crow. It's funny that she mentioned that, because when I asked to use the bathroom, I noticed a tube of prescription pills on the sink. It was labeled duloxetine, which I looked up a bit later and discovered that it is in fact antidepressant. I had a joking thought that maybe by killing her I'd be doing her a favor, but quickly decided I was a terrible person for coming up with that. The rest of the visit was pretty dull. We talked about food and some other mundane stuff before I eventually made an excuse to leave. I didn't get the chance to unlock a window or anything like that, but didn't really feel the need to go through her apartment anymore. As early as the drive back to my dorm, I was already thinking about how I would best like to kill Linda Watson. The choice was between effectiveness and fun. I decided to go with fun because it would be way more satisfying to kind of dissect her as I killed her, rather than just getting it done and calling it a day. Fast forward 1 week to December 13th. Today, actually. Linda Watson turned 34 2 days ago. I made a fun little wager with myself, where if Linda was spending her birthday weekend alone, I would pay her a visit and kill her. If she was out or had company, I would stop by next week or something instead. So this morning, I drove over to Lowe's and bought an axe. Again, I expect you're laughing, but that's also kind of the point. An axe is so kind of cliche and a movies thing that I actually thought it would be the most fun, swinging it at someone and everything. It's a really entertaining image. They actually had a bunch of different axes, so I picked one that had a good weight and was still light enough for me to swing quickly. The drive after getting the axe was when the adrenaline really picked up. All that kept going through my mind on the way over was, wow, I'm really doing this. Not in a bad way, just like a surprise this is real life sort of thing. I also got this strange rush of recollections of the time I spent with Linda. It was like my life was flashing before my eyes, except it was just the rather mundane hour I spent with Linda. Like snippets of our conversations, the sound of her laugh, her facial expressions and stuff. I also wondered to myself what the crazy serial killers would be feeling like at a time like this. Schizophrenic delusions, sexual buildup. I have no idea. But what I felt was a kind of like ridiculously alert and numb in the senses at the same time. However that's possible. Before getting out of the car, I had the sense to stuff the axe into my backpack to look a little less ridiculous walking across the parking lot. The handle was sticking out, but that didn't really matter. At that point, my heart was pounding so hard I could feel